stand while the flags come into the hall. So let's please stand now, and then from here we'll stand.
Good morning and welcome to our Founders Day ceremony. A warm word of welcome to our special guests, members of the school governing body, current heads of the campus schools, namely Mr. Cedric Pullman of Wynberg Boys Junior School and Mr. Melanie Charlotte from Wynberg Girls Junior School. Welcome also to other principals, deputy principals and staff present. Welcome to Mr. Vader from Tense, as President of the Old Boys Union, academic staff present, parents, old boys, and young Wynberg men. Also welcome to those who are following the ceremony via live streaming. A special word of welcome to our guest of honor, Dr. Raythan Adenal, head boy of 2014 and a very successful old boy of this wonderful school. Dr. Adenal will be delivering the John McNaughton address later on, and we are all looking forward to hearing him. Our Founders Day plays a very important part in our Heritage Week. Not only do we welcome back previous generations of old boys to the school, but we also pay tribute to those people who have gone before us and sacrificed their lives to establish and develop this school as a beacon of hope in our province and country. We also celebrate our founding headmaster, John McNaughton, who was appointed as the first headmaster of the new Wynberg established school, which publicly opened its doors on the 1st of July, 1841. John McNaughton was in many ways a visionary leader with a clear and well-defined purpose and intent when the school was established. He endeavored to educate boys to become young men through a holistic approach to education. This approach incorporated the physical, moral, and intellectual development of boys so that they can make significant contributions to South African society. His philosophy and approach have remained steadfast for the past 183 years. John McNaughton's philosophy on education was also shared by several other great institutions in the world, like Eton and Harrow. Many of you present today might have come across the observation ascribed to the Duke of Wellington, the Commander-in-Chief of the Allied armies, about the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, namely, the Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing fields of Eton. Although there is no consensus on whether this statement was in fact made by the Duke of Wellington, many historians would agree that the Duke of Wellington did utter in 1856, when he revisited Eton, that it is here that the Battle of Waterloo was won. This phrase suggests that the skills and values instilled in individuals during their education and upbringing, particularly at prestigious institutions like Eton or Wynberg Boys Island, play a significant role in their later lives. Both John McNaughton and the Duke of Wellington had this in common in their philosophies on education. These institutions all shared emphasis on discipline, leadership, strategic thinking, and teamwork. Let me briefly elaborate. Firstly, these schools are renowned for developing discipline. It is well known that the Duke of Wellington was always on the front line with his men to rally them. He rode his horse up and down the line and showed tremendous discipline and courage as a commander of troops while being shot at. Secondly, these schools also played a prominent role in establishing and developing leadership qualities amongst their charges. Both these schools are boarding schools, and Eton is renowned for developing leadership skills so that English boys became successful leaders in the military, the civil service, and the church. Thirdly, the boys who attended these schools developed the necessary strategic thinking skills to withstand and overcome hardship, especially on the battlefields. It was the nerve and strategic thinking of the British officer, particularly at junior officer level, that kept the British Army from breaking under Napoleon's massive pressure on the battlefield during the Battle of Waterloo. And finally, these institutions developed the importance of teamwork. The Battle of Waterloo was a complex military engagement that involved teamwork and the tactical execution of a specific strategy to defeat Napoleon and his French forces. Boys also learned the importance of hierarchy and the codes of honor in these kind of schools. At Wynberg Boys, we also strive to educate our boys holistically so that they can indeed leave the memorial gates, being able to think for themselves and to overcome all the many challenges facing our beautiful country. Over time, the emphasis of our Founders Day has not only been on celebrating the establishment of such a fine school, but also on remembering those associated with our school who have devoted their lives in developing our school into such a fine institution. We celebrate current and previous generations of boys, parents, teaching and support staff, and other benefactors. Our Founders' Day is therefore a time to look back at the past, to evaluate the present, and to look towards the future. Looking back at the past, we remember those Wynberg boys who lost their lives in battle and who could never reap the rewards of being educated at this fine institution. One is reminded, and we pay tribute to, those Wynberg boys who sacrificed their lives in World War I, World War II, and the Korean War, when walking through the memorial gates and acknowledging the copper plaque in our garden of remembrance, bearing their names. We should always remember the more than 12,000 South African casualties suffered in the First World War, the more than 38,000 casualties suffered in the Second World War, and those killed in the Korean War. South Africans of all races volunteered for military service, and the war graves of all races lie scattered abroad in faraway places like France, Belgium, the Middle East, Italy and Korea, to name but a few. Closer to home, we should remember the many South Africans of all races who died in the conflicts on our borders and in the liberation struggle of the 1960s, 70s and 1980s. As yet, there are no reliable figures for these casualties, but what is important is that they bravely contributed to the freedom of our beloved country and to building a new democratic dispensation. The act of remembrance has strong South African roots. However, to many, remembering those who sacrificed their lives in active duty in South Africa is a lost pastime and often tainted by the politics surrounding the conflicts. We should honor the individuals who died, rather than the ideology that sent them to war, often unwillingly. We must remember that soldiers die in battle fighting for their lives and those of their comrades, and not necessarily for the preservation of the regimes that sent them to war. We must be reminded that remembering those who sacrificed their lives is not about celebrating any victory, nor about boasting about achievements in conflict. In this regard, the quote by Herodotus, the Greek historian, is apt. In peace, sons bury their fathers. In war, fathers bury their sons. Unquote. We must therefore show respect for those who are willing to serve their country, or fellow oppressed compatriots, and who made the ultimate sacrifice so that we who are here now can have the life that we know. This sentiment is strikingly reflected in the famous poem In Flanders Field, written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. The second stanza states, and I quote, "We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, fell dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field." Unquote. Looking at the present, many of you here today have never, and probably will never, experienced the ravages of war. Many of you will also probably only glancingly take note of the many copper plaques of fallen soldiers if you have been affected by wars, perhaps by losing an extended family member a long time ago. To many of you, the reading of the names of Wynberg boys on this roll of honor will therefore bear little significance. And yet, it is our duty to remember these names. However, the wars that we as South Africans are fighting today are not fought on any battlefield on our borders or in faraway locations. As South Africans, we fight an invisible enemy who have invaded our borders, neighborhoods and homes. As South Africans continue to strive to unite as one nation, and in the midst of trying times, characterized by several seemingly debilitating changes, we need to commit to the quest for a non-racial, equal and inclusive society, free from the horrors of conflict or oppression. South Africa is in the grip of wide-ranging crises, especially affecting the poor and vulnerable. Violence and criminality have become the norm, threatening the existence and future of our people, our democratic life, and heightening fear and insecurity in communities. Corruption has eaten away at our nation's soul and has severely eroded the social compact between the state and ordinary citizens. Our youth the future of our country, are bearing the brunt for this systemic decay, instability and turbulent times. Research indicates that our youth is suffering from mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, substance abuse, eating disorders, self-harm, suicidal behaviors, to name but a few. These challenges faced by the youth in South Africa are related to high crime, the prevalence of both gender and domestic violence, substance abuse, the socio-economic crisis, and educational challenges in South African schools. The rapid development of technology and increased exposure and accessibility to social media have created severe challenges for our youth, as these elements affect their emotional well-being and mental health. Additionally, the need for approval, acceptance, validation, and instant gratification are all challenges that are affecting our youth in particular. However, our obligation as South Africans is to learn from the past, address our current challenges, but look towards the future. So, what does the future hold for our youth? I believe that our founding headmaster, John McNaughton, and those names that are inscribed on the plaque in our Garden of Remembrance hold the answer to this question. John McNaughton reminds us to strive to get a good education, to rely on our communities for support, and to make use of every opportunity to develop physically, morally, and intellectually. John McNaughton also reminds us to think for ourselves, to be solution-driven, and to also train our minds by becoming resilient to the challenges that we are facing. Our fallen soldiers remind us to protect the rights of those who also wear our blue blazer, but who might be a minority group or perhaps previously oppressed and disadvantaged or socially frowned upon. Building a better South Africa requires each and every one of us to take responsibility and to make a contribution in whatever way we can. By working together, as our school slogan so aptly states, as brothers in an endless chain, we can create hope and a better future for all South Africans. We certainly can succeed and ensure a brighter future for our youth if we make our school values of honesty, integrity, respect, inclusivity and excellence part of our DNA and part of our moral fiber. Finally, the battles that we face can indeed be won on the playing fields of Wynberg Boys High School. I thank you.
Leviticus chapter 44, verse 1 through 15. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. Such as did bear rule in their kingdoms, men renowned for their power, giving counsel by their understanding, and declaring prophecies. Leaders of the people by their counsels, and by the knowledge of learning read for the people, wise and delinquent of the instructions. Such as found out musical tunes and recited verses in writing. Rich men furnished with ability, living peaceably in their habitations. All these were honored in their generations, and with the glory of their times. There be of them that have left the name behind them, that their praises might be repeated. And some there be which have no memorial, or perished as though they have never been, and have become as though they have never been born, and their children after them. But these were merciful men, whose righteousness hath not been forgotten. But their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant. Their seed standeth fast, and their children for their sons. Their seed shall remain forever, and their glory shall not be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their name liveth forevermore. The people will tell of their wisdom, and the congregation will show forth their praise.
When her roots sprout, I am born, and as her leaves unfurl, I grow. When her branches spread, I learn, and as her flowers bud, I bloom. God bless Africa, for she is the fire of creation, and I am transformed through her. When problems loom, I am challenged, and when solutions hide, I search. When suffering strikes, I ache, and when relief calls, I answer. God bless Africa, for she is the tree of life, and I am alive through her. When her roots are dry, I thirst, and when her trunk is cut, I bleed. As the seasons turn, I change, and as her fruits ripen, I flourish.
Now is the time of the year when the members of Wynberg Boys High School pause to remember the old boys of the school whose headstones are scattered in military cemeteries in distant lands. It is gratifying to know they have not receded into the faceless anonymity of the distant past. Please bow your heads while we give thanks for their lives. Oh Nkosi Thixo, sincede sikhumbule onke amakhwenkwe amadala esikolo athe anikele ngobomi babo ngexesha lemfazwe ukuze sibe nokuphila ngoxolo kwaye sonwabile ubomi bethu. Sincede ukuze sibe nokulifanela idini lawo. Siyakubulela ngobomi babo, ukuba ngumzekelo kwabo kwakunye nokukhalipha kwabo. Oh Thixo, osinika okukhulu, sicela usinike ntoni inhliziyo enombulelo ngokuzenza idini kwabo bangakhange bakuyo. Ungabanceda amakhwenkwe esikolo ukuze aphile ubomi babo namhlanje, ubuya kuphucule ingomso lawo. Amen.
Stand. Our dedication to all Wynberg generations, Wynberg Boys Junior School and high schools acknowledge all Wynberg families, including the families of Wynberg boys who have attended Wynberg after the opening of the school, to all from 1991 onwards who have been affected by loss of life, injury, exile, during the years of conflict and the liberation struggle to the end of apartheid in South Africa. The roll of honor in memory of former pupils of Wynberg Boys High School following wartime conflict. The inscription reads, "At morning and evening we shall remember you." The following from World War I, which took place from 1914 to 1918. J.B. Abrams, E.J. Rowley, A.K. Carstens, W.A. Carstens, B. Cohen, G.T. Cornwall, R. Duncan, C.H. Elliott, D. Elliott, E. Elliott, T.A. Folby, W.J. Fish, M.S. Fox, H.T. Garrett, C.L. Giddy, C.C. Gordon, R.L. Graham, E.M. Greenwood, H.L. Harcourt, E.W. Hitchcock, C.E. Horn, K.T. Howard, J.C. Hurley, D.B. Hudson, N. Keppel-Jones, C. Loxton, C.R. Lukes, J.R. Martin, J.H. McKnight, E.J. Mills, W.H. Milner, J.V. Noakes, J.E. Poole, E.G. Powell, W. Prince, C.H. Sorman, R.O. Shorts, G.G. Scott, S. Scott, R.R. Short, W. Solomon, W.I. Thompson, C.A. Viper, G.E. Waters. From the Rand Rebellion in 1922, W.A. Kirsten. From World War II, from 1939 to 1945, E.C. Adams, A.J. Bates, R. Beckwith, R.B. Ball, C. O'Shea, J.F.L. Bernard, J.S. Cartwright, J.F. Cutting, R. Daniels, J.S. Dalbridge, I. Difford, A. Dubber, A. Yip Jones, C. A. Friedlander, J. G. Graham, A. Haft, K. Jacobs, H. A. Job, G. Josephson, A. Khan, N. Carr, Al. Coupet, D. Langton, F. Lodilleray, B. Masterton Smith, D. McIntyre, G. B. Macmillan, H. Miller, L. F. Moorman, J. S. Parsons, I. L. Posner, J. Ritchie, F. Scrimgeour, Q. Scrimgeour, J. Setsport, R. Stevini, D. Tattersall, J. Tom, J. H. Twaits, S. M. Upton, E. Van Schard, P. Vervat, B. Watson Smith, C. Wheeler, W. R. White, N. F. Wilkinson, D. Williams, E. Wise, R. A. Wittenberg, L. Wood. From the border conflict, D. Barry Smith, G. Brickenham, R. Davies, and N. Patton.
10 years ago, our guest of honor sat in the place where you all sit today. Rathon Adenal matriculated from Wynberg in 2014 as the head prefect. And I'm just thinking now, had he matriculated 100 years prior to that, he would have not have gone on to achieve what he has achieved, because he would have been whisked off to go and fight on battlefields of Europe at the start of World War I. However, Rathon matriculated having received a plethora of awards and after making a significant contribution to the life of the school. Valedictory prize giving, Rathon won the following prizes. Supera Moras Gold, this is an all-rounders award. He was the only matriculant of his year to achieve it, and he had earned a Supera Moras award for every year since grade 8, a feat that very, very few boys achieve. He won the Thorpe Rankin Award for tertiary studies, which goes towards somebody studying in the scientific field. He won the Rotary Good Fellowship Award for leadership by example and for passionate determination to raise standards. He won the Abelson Cup for the people who made the biggest contribution to the school, and the Andrew Feinstein Cup, which is the All-Rounders Award. In the matric year, Rathon was the head prefect, captained the first cricket 11, was involved in numerous community service projects, played in the steel band, and was a member of the choir, and also achieved 5 distinctions. After school, his passion for medicine saw him attending the University of Stellenbosch, where he earned a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. After completing his degree, he did 2 years of internship at Tygerberg Hospital, after which he dedicated a full year to community service at Easter River Hospital, contributing significantly to the local healthcare system and providing essential medical care to the most disadvantaged members of our community. Currently, he is the Chief Medical Officer and Director of VideoMed, a pioneering telemedicine platform that facilitates both virtual and inpatient consultations. Their aim is to bridge the gap between patients and healthcare providers, improving access to medical care for a wider population, something which is very topical at the moment. However, the characteristic that stands out the most for me, and the value that I remember most about Rathon, is that he is a man of integrity. Wynberg was fortunate to have had him at our school for 5 years. Men like him are hard to find in the present world, and I ask you to listen carefully to what he has to share with us all. Rathon.
Good morning, thank you, Mr. Moser, for that introduction. Good morning, Mrs. Skippers, staff, guests, parents, family, and most importantly, the men of Wynberg Boys High School, the greatest school in the country. Firstly, I'd like to express my sincere appreciation. I feel so honored and grateful to be here after 10 years, to be standing here and giving this address today. But in the words of King Henry VIII, as he spoke to each of his 6 wives, I won't be long. But I'll be very brief and compendious. I'm going to speak about simple lessons that I've learned throughout my journey, lessons that some of you might have already learned, and some of you might benefit now. So my journey started coming to Wynberg from another traditional boys' school, which Mr. Moser didn't mention. I won't say the school's name, but it rhymes with Pax. So as you all can imagine, I was welcomed and embraced like a true Wynberg man from day one. Absolutely delightful. I think I was late for the first class. I was like 50 minutes late. I think it was Mr. Winston's class, it was maths. And I found myself in the fishbowl with Bevan Barnard waiting for someone to take us to class, and obviously no one came. Entering class, I'll never forget the whispers. Everyone just started, whispering, he's the Pax boy, he's the Pax boy. like I was some sort of anomaly. So I managed to get through the first few days, and then finally, the very first Friday. Now, I'm a proud Muslim, born and raised, and I was walking to Juma, Friday prayers, which was held at the time at Alf Moras Center. I don't know where they do it now, but at the time it was held at the Alf Moras Center, and I was walking with a few of my Muslim classmates. Suddenly, Ibrahim Adam stops me, and so at the time it's important to know that assembly and Friday prayers happen at the same time. So Ibrahim Adam stops me and he's like, "Bro, you know, somebody's that way." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Muslim." He's like, "Don't talk nonsense." "Oh, what's this bra's Muslim?" So I then had to prove my Muslimness by reciting a few verses of the Quran. But I mean, I was so like flabbergasted, I was like stunned, I was like saying random words that I didn't even know, like, mashallah, inshallah, alhamdulillah. And I was just sort of like taken back. But eventually they believed me. So as you can see from week one, it was an incredibly interesting journey, navigating my way through Army Boys. However, this is where I actually learned my very first lesson, without really knowing it. You have to be adaptable. So everyone knows Netflix, right? Yeah, of course. So Netflix started as a DVD rental service by men. And as technology started to grow, Netflix quickly adapted by transitioning its business model to focus on online streaming. Anyone know what Netflix is worth today? $270 billion. Anyone heard of BlackBerry? Okay, cool. I know teachers all know. BBM, right? It was free internet. Absolutely revolutionary. Their marketing was like, QWERTY keyboard, physical keyboard on a cell phone. And they dominated the market. However, as the smartphone industry shifted towards, an app-driven ecosystem and towards touchscreens, BlackBerry just clung onto this physical keyboard design. And by the time they wanted to pivot, it was too late, because Apple and Samsung already took market share. So as a result, the market share dwindled and the company eventually exited the smartphone business. So it's about being adaptable. It's the skills that turns obstacles into opportunities and setbacks into comebacks. My first year at Wynberg continues. So I joined a couple of sports teams, cricket, rugby, joined the steel band, involved in service, and obviously trying to maintain academic excellence. At the end of grade 8, I was sitting in this very hall, and Mr. Eddie comes to present the Anthony Moras Prize, which is awarded to the grade 8 pupil who has shown the most loyalty to the school by his participation in school activities. And as he says this individual, he introduces the individual, he says this person is involved in sport, cricket, rugby, does cultural activities, involved in service. Probably everyone's just doing it, right? I mean, it's normal. And he then goes on to say, and this boy has a very lovely sense of dry humor. I was like, maybe. He then presents me with the award, and obviously I was very blown, I was taken back by this, because I didn't expect it. But then something very important happened. The very, very next week, I went from being known by almost everyone in the school as the Pax boy to being called Head boy. And that's where I learned my next lesson. Respect is not something that is freely given. It is something that must be earned every single day. So the years go by incredibly fast, like that. I know everyone says it, but it's the truth. So grade 9 goes by, grade 10. And at the end of grade 10, I was actually had the privilege of being involved in an exchange program with Canberra Grammar in Australia. I don't know if this is, but we were fortunate enough to have that for about 2 months at the end of the year. And absolutely amazing experience, unbelievable, absolutely opened up my mind to this whole other world, because you sort of live in a bubble here in South Africa, right? So as soon as you go to another country, it's a different school, different people, different culture. And I remember the grade 10 dance very vividly. And let's just say I wasn't always married. but yeah, it was fun. I just played, it was fun. So matric arrives and the final year of being at Wynberg Boys High School commences. And me having the honor of leading the class of 2014, what a phenomenal year it was. First in cricket, unbeaten in all their formats, won the Coca-Cola T20 Regional Trophy. And as a result, we earned the right to represent Cobras at the T20 Nationals in Pretoria. The first team in rugby, led by the deputy editor at the time, Keynote, one of the biggest dudes I've seen. We actually tried to, we had a competition with Mr. Van Winkle, we tried to arm wrestling, we tried it, but he didn't win, Mr. Van Winkle won. But yeah, we ended up top 10 in the country, so that was rugby. We won multiple awards at our state fairs, academically we excelled, and then I learned simple lessons in matric. Simple lessons like, you have to be tough, but always be kind. Never lose your humility. And in the words of Rick Rigsby, ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Now maybe some of you have a relative you want to say that to. I'll say it again. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. So make sure your desire to serve outweighs your need to be recognized. Next lesson, you have to be consistent. Aristotle said we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. You cannot work hard only in the first term, and then that work ethic just dissipates. If you want to be strong and fit, you have to train consistently. So Aiden, yeah. For example, Aiden, right? He probably comes from a genetic pool of Thor and all, but I mean, still, he has to train, right? He has to train to be consistent. You can't just wake up at one and say, oops, okay, yeah, you all got it. So you have to be consistent. If you want to be the top academic achiever or top musician or the best player on the sports team, you have to be consistent. It must be habitual. You cannot rely on motivation. Motivation is so fickle. And I know everyone says that, but it's the truth. I wasn't motivated in matric. I mean, who in their right mind would want to wake up every single morning at 5 a.m. and get out of their warm, cozy bed to do work? But I had to. Because if I didn't do it, no one else was going to do it for me. And I had to win. That's exactly what it is. So you must be disciplined. Next lesson. Have courage. It takes courage to be successful. It's far easier not to be successful. It's far easier to not wake up earlier to study for the rest, for a test or to go to gym. It's far easier to overlook indiscretions from your peers. It takes courage to do the right thing. It takes courage to win. My next journey began opting to study medicine. Now, there aren't any medical professionals in my family, and interesting fact, my parents actually tried to steer me away from studying medicine. I think my mom said once, but we're going to have to treat gangsters. Mothers are, lovely. But yeah, so I opted to study medicine, and I chose to study medicine for the sole purpose of serving others. Now, the lesson I learned there was that there is absolutely no greater feeling than serving others. Now, it doesn't have to be in the medical field. It could be like a really good teacher, having a transformative influence over their students, a mentor guiding someone to becoming, something to reach their full potential, a coach instilling confidence and discipline in a team, or a volunteer at a charity organization, bringing hope and support to those in need. Last year I was actually working at a district hospital like Mr. Rosa mentioned in the emergency center, and a patient came in unconscious after having been beaten with like a steel pole or something. It was a Friday night, end of the month, Friday night special. And so this patient comes in, beaten to a pulp, and I see him, and he's got this abnormal respiration. It's called chain stokes breathing. Okay, so it's a fancy word for saying that the patient's got like this deep sort of breathing pattern, increases in rate, and then suddenly just stops breathing, and then the same pattern repeats itself. And it's a very dangerous sign. So I was very worried. We put him in the resus area, put him IV lines, ECG monitors attached, I assess him, and he's bruising all over his head. And his one pupil is also blown, so dilated compared to the other. And immediately I start to panic because these are all signs that there's raised pressure in the head, and he doesn't have a lot of time. So I called Wynberg Hospital Neurosurgery, and I chatted to one of the registrars there, and I said, listen, please, I need advice. Just tell me if there's anything else I can do here, because I can't use another patient. I needed the win. And he gives advice, and I try everything. I intubate him, he's on the ventilator, he's sort of stable. But in the emergency unit, obviously things are happening all the time. You can't just stop, right? Nothing just stops. Everything just keeps on going. So I see more patients, but while I'm busy seeing the patients, I'm always just like turning around, just to check, is he still okay? I prayed, I checked, booked the transport. Eventually he went across the Wynberg Hospital. He had his surgery. 2 weeks later, a colleague of mine sends a picture of him smiling and thanking me. So that was the best feeling I've ever had in my life, the feeling of serving others. However, I would not have experienced this if I didn't learn the final lesson, which I'm about to share. And I'm going to close with this very personal story of mine, something that I think will bring this final lesson into focus. Wisdom will often comes to you from the most unexpected places. More often than not, it's born through failure. When you find yourself at your lowest, remember that hitting rock bottom can be a solid ground to start anew. It's from that foundation that you can rebuild stronger and wiser. So December 2018, I just finished my 4th year of studying. And my brother comes to me and he says, come, let's go to Dubai. I'm like, bro, I can't afford to. And anyway, I somehow end up there, and absolutely, again, incredible experience. Like what they've done in essentially a desert. Amazing architecture, amazing people, very friendly. Weather was ridiculous, but still, it was an incredible experience. And I come back, everything is good, life is good, A couple of days later, on the 6th of January 2019, a day before the start of my 5th year of medical school, everything changed. So family arrived at our house on a Sunday morning, and they were supposed to have lunch with my grandparents, but according to them, no one was home. Which we found strange because my grandparents were 80 at the time, and my grandfather had such severe rheumatoid arthritis that he couldn't even lift his arms up. So we decided to go to the house, and eventually we gained access via locksmith because there was no way of entering, everything was closed up. And I found my grandparents. I found their bodies in their house, cold and lifeless. They were strangled to death by the gardener. That was rock bottom. A few days go by, and I sit down with my parents and I say, Mom, Dad, I just can't go on. I can't study medicine about trauma. I know things are gonna remind me of them, and I just can't. And my dad, as clearly as I'm speaking to you today, he says the following words with me. He said, son, don't give up. No matter what you do, you cannot give up. You are so close to finishing. No matter how rough it gets, you have to keep going. If it wasn't for my faith in God, support from my parents and family, I wouldn't be here today. So in closing, I ask all of you today, if you are implementing each of these lessons every single day, are you adaptable? Are you earning respect, not demanding it? Are you kind? Are you making sure your desire to serve outweighs your need to be recognized? Are you consistent and disciplined? Do you have courage? Are you serving others? In this way, you will honor all of those that have come before you, all of those that have lost their lives, so that we may sit here, be privileged, and be honored to say, Supera Moras. May you all be blessed. Thank you so much for having me.
I would just like to say a huge thank you to you, Dr. Admiral, on behalf of everyone here present today and those who couldn't make it and still are here to listen to your address. I think I can speak for everyone in saying that we should all take your lessons and apply them in our day-to-day lives, and I think we should all be grateful to the address. So thank you on behalf of everyone, and I'd like to give a token of appreciation for your day.
invited to some refreshments at the headmaster's office, so by inviting you to leave now, if you would. Thanks very much. To the house captains, requesting you to take a seat for a second. House captains on stage, please.